November 6th, day after the 2024 elections. I'm Kirby Adams, along with Hannah Pinsky and Joe Gerth, our political experts here at the Courier Journal newsroom. And we're going to break down the elections as they pertain to Kentucky on this day. And I think the first thing we're going to start off with, first of all, welcome, is going to be the presidential election. No surprise there that Donald Trump won in Kentucky.
Not at all. I mean, when he ran in 16, he got 62.5% of the vote. When he ran in 20, he got 62.1% of the vote. This time, he got 64.6. So, like in most states around the country, he upped his percentage a little bit. Harris finished down a little bit below Biden, and it again, it was pretty predictable.
So, I think that I saw Kentucky very first out of the gates too, being announced nationally as going for Trump.
NBC called it at like 7:01, just 1 minute after the polls closed in the western part of the state.
Absolutely. All right, so with the presidential race out of the picture, now we're going to talk about something that was a very contested here in the state of Kentucky, and that was Amendment 2. And I think that's something that people are waking up and thinking about a lot at this point today. So let's talk about, first of all, what was Amendment 2?
So basically, Amendment 2 asked Kentucky voters if they wanted to let the state legislature allocate tax dollars outside of the common or public school system to be able to fund, other educational opportunities such as charter schools, private school vouchers. And, Kentuckians gave a resounding no on this amendment. I believe it was about 65% of voters voted no, as well as no Kentucky counties also voted in favor of passing it.
And that was pretty predictable, too.
Yeah.
Because most of the counties around Kentucky don't have any private schools. And so it didn't make sense for voters in those counties to support an amendment that would fund private schools that they didn't have. It wasn't going to help their kids.
Yeah.
So that was pretty predictable. And the question now becomes, what does the House and Senate do to try to fund these private schools? Because I don't think it's over with. Unfortunately, it should be, but they'll try something else, possibly trying to allocate money from the lottery toward private schools, which may be constitutional.
Yeah. Well, and I think I saw this morning when I woke up and was reading the news, it was already they're going to go back and they're going to figure out a way to make it push it through.
Yeah.
So, not over yet.
Not over by a long shot.
Okay. What about Amendment 1? Let's explain what Amendment 1 was.
Basically, what it did is it said that if you're not a citizen, you can't vote in Kentucky. You put that in the Constitution. The thing is, the Constitution right now says that citizens can vote, does not give permission for non-citizens to vote. There's the thought that possibly a city could do that and allow non-citizens to vote in, say, school board races. Some cities around the country have done that. But the problem with that is Kentucky's home rule law would not allow that. So it would take the legislature to change the state law and then the local government to pass a law that would allow non-citizens to vote. This was put on there in an attempt to get conservatives who have gotten riled up about the immigration issue to come to the polls. That's all it was there for. It essentially does nothing. It passed easily.
And I think we should mention too that you needed to turn your ballot over to be sure that you saw those.
Right.
Those were two issues that were on the back page, and I don't know. They were mentioning in the precinct where I went to vote. Make sure you turn your ballot over.
Right.
But you always wonder, did the ballots get turned over?
I haven't looked at the numbers to see how those numbers match up with the number of votes in the presidential race, but yeah, I'm sure there are some people who didn't do it, possibly because they didn't see it, or possibly because they didn't understand it, because those were long explanations.
They were long explanations.
And if you didn't go in knowing what they were, I can see people looking at those and say, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also important to note, both of these amendments were Republican-led during this legislative session, and just the stark contrast between results. I mean, Amendment 1, you saw basically an opposite of the results with Amendment 2, where it had a bit over 60% support, and all the counties in Kentucky have voted in favor of it. So I think it also just goes to show, Kentuckians had a resounding message on Amendment number 2, as you can see also with the results on Amendment 1.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Metro Council races, because there were some very close races in this situation, and it's going to make a difference.
Right. The Republicans were able to flip 3 seats on Metro Council, putting them, I believe, at 12 seats out of 26. It's the most they've ever had. Among the people who lost were Rick Blackwell, who had been on the Metro Council since government merged back in 2000.
I'm going to stop you there for 1 second, too. You and I looked at the numbers, and it was so tight.
Yeah, he lost by 91 votes. Then another person who lost was Cindy Fowler in the 14th district. She's been on the council, probably for, 10, 11, 12, 13 years, something like that. So she lost by just about 400 votes. And then in an open seat race, Jenny Mulvey Wooldridge beat Tyra Thomas Walker by about 200 votes.
And how will this affect government in Louisville moving forward?
Republicans don't have enough votes to block things without getting some buy-in from some Democrats, but it does give them enough votes that if they can pull a few people over, there are a couple of Democrats on the council who sometimes will vote in a more conservative fashion. If they can pull a few of them over on an issue here or there, then they might be able to impact it. Also, back in the early days of the Metro Council, we saw the Republicans and a group of Democrats who were kind of on the outs with their fellow Democrats cross the line and elect Republican as the council president. And so there's always a possibility they could do that if they can find some cracks in the Democratic caucus.
Is it fair to ask at this point why we saw a bit of a flip? I don't know that we could say it's a flip, but
Well, I mean, they flipped the seats. All of these were in the southwest or south end of Jefferson County, where you had a lot of kind of blue collar voters, the type of voters who were voting for Trump. And so it could simply be the issue of coattails. But I don't know enough about the internal workings of any of these campaigns to say, but I would guess it has a lot to do with just the sort of voters in those districts.
Yeah. Well, that's great insight. All right, now we're going to go outside of the city of Louisville. Let's talk a bit about what happened out in the Commonwealth, and in particular, House District 88.
Yes, so Democratic incumbent Representative Sharon Stevenson, who also serves as the House Minority Caucus chair, is trailing behind by 50 votes against Republican candidate Vanessa Grosso. Now, the race hasn't been called yet, but Grosso last night has declared herself the winner. And the implications of this race and the results are beyond just the Democrats losing a seat. This particular race includes parts of Fayette and Scott County, which, adds geographic diversity to the Democrat caucus, who mainly are from, the Louisville and Lexington, the metropolitan areas. It's always been a close race in the past with Stevenson. I believe last election cycle, she only won by 37 votes. And with a more moderate Republican, running against her, I think with the population growth in Scott County as well, that caused the potential flip of the seat.
All right. So we will continue to cover all of this and more at the Courier Journal. We appreciate you tuning in today. Be sure to read more at courierjournal.com. And, I want to say as we're getting ready to wrap this up, I was out talking to people at different polling locations yesterday, doing video with them. And the sense that I got, there were a lot of people that felt like they were very anxious, very nervous, but more than anything, and this was very heartening to me, people were proud and happy to be out there voting and having that capability. And so that I got that more than anything at all.